welcome back and welcome to season 38. We are here in PCF2. We're going to waste absolutely zero time. I'll state this from the top once more. My name's Ben Sapsford. I'm joined in the commentary box by Omi. We have got quite a stacked driver lineup this season here in PCF2. But let us go trackside and let us see what they can do in qualifying here. I gotta say, Omi, this is looking absolutely stacked here in F2.
Luca Ripasa, who's also joining us as well as he switches from console up to PC as well to try and get in with the battle with some of the best drivers on this game here on the PC side. And then as well, we've got plenty of returning drivers hoping for this to be their season after watching Julian Clavenbach take the crown last season. Let's see who's going to take it in season 38. And we've got qualifying underway where someone is able to get an early championship lead with the 1 point that's available for pole position.
Yeah, and there's plenty to play for out in Australia for an inaugural round of the season. And we have got drivers who are about to start their laps out here this evening. So let's not waste any more time as we are about to do at their peak. We jump on board and we can see Szymon Lukomski is our first out as one of the McLaren drivers. Let's see what he can do. First time out in the new season. Must feel like the return from a holiday, and for some, a chance to really prove themselves.
Absolutely. Lukomski heading down towards the first corner here at Albert Park, which opens up our season, and it is a great circuit to have our season open up with 4 DRS zones, which I think everyone can pretty much tell with that we're going to be getting so much overtaking throughout this race. Lots of moments of brinkmanship for these drivers, so it's going to be a close but challenging race for the 20 in the field. Always a great part of the season to see all 20 here on the grid with a couple of reserves also stepping up for this race as we watch Lukomski now make his way down towards the 9th corner on this circuit.
Yep, and as we head through now into probably the most infamous section of the course in qualifying, this is a pure high-speed test of commitment. It's rocketing through that chicane, the left-right, of course, snapping your car both ways through, and very nicely done into now that third sector to finish, say, 12, 13, and 14. It's almost a little bit of a cool down in a way after such high speeds, but here we go, looking clean from Lukomski. Coming up to the line now, first initial impressions and first time on the board of the season. We have ourselves a 14.815. Many other drivers now filtering their way through. We have Stevens with a 15.0. Top A with a 14.8, just 300ths of a second behind. Jeltsin in the 15s as well in the Ferrari. The Kick Sauber being the third car to creep into the 14s with a .991. With Sixten Lindhardt, the other Alpine, making his way through likewise. Many other cars now going straight into the pit, not having the run that they necessarily were looking for. Koya with a 15.106, and already we are seeing just how tight the margins can get in this field.
We saw it last season, we've seen it in every season of F2, and it's of course going to continue here in season 38 around this circuit now. We go on board with the kick salver of Sergio Sabrino, who has invalidated his lap as well as he's about to attack turn number 9, but it's Lukomski right now out the front of the field. Angelo in second position, and Angelo, a driver who stepped up mid-season into this tier, now starts a full season as well. He also got a treat by PSGL earlier on today. He finished second in the F3 championship, even after stepping away around halfway through. He still got second in the championship, 15 points behind Sixten Lindhardt as well. And in only his second F2 race as well, he also was able to take victory at Spa. That was a great performance 1 season ago. Now he begins a full season. Now he tries to challenge for the title.
Yep, and of course there is a lot of pressure and a lot of chance for everyone here. This is their chance to make their debut, to show what the drivers in this field are truly capable of, and to really set the stakes for the rest of the season. We always see those first 2-3 rounds, they are a flurry as drivers look to get some early points, establish a dominance, and look to be in a prime position as the championship starts to unfold in full. We start to see our protagonists really come to the fore. Around 2 to 3 races in is when you really see it mature, but here is where it all starts. We've got the second half of the field now on their outlaps, looking to get something finally on the board. And with the pit spread of the times, 0.815 down to 15.106, just 0.3 of a second is all that splits this field, and that's going to be a lot of pressure on this second half, as we now have Alves being the first of the second wave to make their way through.
Another returning driver this season in the Williams, hoping to also be a contender near the front of the field. He finished 11th in the standings last season. Let's see what he's going to manage now in season 38 as he heads down to the braking zone of turn number 3 on this circuit, and then he's going to be attacking through the flat out corners of 5, 6, and then 7 and 8, and then it'll be foot to the floor all the way down towards turn number 9, where it can get really close in the race at turn number 9 and into turn 10. That is going to be a very crucial spot in the race on the final lap especially. That is going to be one of the last opportunities for the drivers to make overtakes, and they'll be trying to position themselves as high as possible in this qualifying session. Remember, we do have a bonus point for pole position, meaning that we've got more to push for, just like it was last season as well. And it meant that we saw so much improvements near the end of qualifying sessions, where drivers trying all they can to get to the front of the field in this 18-minute session. But Nelson Alves, we're about to see what he's going to be able to do as he brings the car to the end of the lap. The 14th and final corner on the circuit awaits the Williams driver, who's about to come across the line with DRS open, and let's see what effort he's been able to find on the board. Coming up in a few seconds, he goes up to second place. It's a 1 minute 14.832.
It's a seriously impressive run, but that's just been outdone by Leo Lund in the RB. First to break into the 0.7s, Jan Halliday immediately snatching that back and saying, actually, I will take that, thank you very much. There's a reason I was such a front runner in the prior season. We see many other cars now pushing their way through as they are going to be going for some more runs. Sabrino with no such luck, along with the likes of the Red Bulls and Tias Korsman all the way down in P20 right now. We're seeing a couple of reserves jump in and a crucial chance for the drivers to prove themselves on a reserve level as well. That's the other interesting thing. Being a reserve driver is a unique position to be in. You don't necessarily get that full chance and commitment, but when you get a spot on your day, sometimes it can be just 20 minutes before a race, someone has to jump out, you get that reserve call, and you need to be ready. But if you can prove yourselves with those conditions, that is a serious statement for you as a driver.
It absolutely is as well, and plenty of times in PSGL we have seen great performances from reserve drivers. We're watching one of them now, Tias Korsman, as he makes his way through, and he has to cut over the road. He had already invalidated the lap. The F5 champion from a few seasons ago, as Tope now to the top of the timing page as well. Goes ahead of Jan Halliday in the Williams. Super stuff from him. The margins, though, continue to be close between all of these drivers. And really excited to see how Tope is going to be able to get on lots of moments of pace shown by him last season. So really excited to see what he can get that into in this season now as well. We're watching Harvey Curran as he makes his way down towards the 9th corner. But yeah, quickly on Tias Korsman, really talented driver as he of course now makes the jump up, having finished 4th last season in F3, and he is making his way through to a reserve role, which if you are able to impress in these races, as you mentioned, Sappy, it could lead to possibly getting a full-time seat even for the remainder of the season if any drivers do have to fully give up a seat for the remainder of the season.
Well, it looks like Cohen is on the cool down despite being one of the 4 cars yet to put anything on the boards. With the tyre life of these soft compounds, even if you make a mistake on that first lap, you cannot just save them, go very gentle as soon as you invalidate and then go out for a second. There is such a meaningful difference between even a single lap of wear between the soft tires. So you have situations like we are seeing where drivers invalidate and burn as much as 3 to 4 minutes of their qualifying efforts, because don't forget, they've got their lap, they've got their cooldown lap where they have not managed to make it work, and then they have to go into the pits, get that fresh set back on, and go once more. But we have many other cars now out once again. Szymon Lekomski was being one of our earliest time setters, looking to improve, where he's seen many other cars get into the 0.7s. He said that it's his turn.
He'll be hoping happens by the time that he makes his way through these final few corners next time around and crosses the line, and then we'll get the indication of what lap has the McLaren driver been able to produce around this 5.2 kilometer circuit, 3.8 miles if you prefer it in miles, and he makes his way now down towards the first turn. Does Lekomski, and as you mentioned, his goal will be trying to get to a 0.7, and a 0.7 that could possibly still take him to the front of the field. Let's see how he's going to be able to get on with an indication coming in the first sector, whether he is up or not in a couple of corners time, as more drivers begin push laps as well on their second run, all just trying to build up on what they've managed on their first run, as the track now of course also does improve, and Lekomski is up by a 1/10 of a second.
This is looking very impressive here from Lekomski. This first sector is the real indicator of pace here. Sector 2 is basically just the run into turn 9. There's not really much to be gained or lost in this sector, short of having a very thin profile aero setup. But you can see he's gained even more time through turns 9 and 10, looking nice and clean, barely keeping it within those track limits as he goes through that high-speed chicane. Peel out as much as you can to the left side, barely kiss the wall if you're feeling lucky, but take as much of the curb, extend that line while still remaining legal here. 2/10 of a second could be the difference between everything here. Very nicely done here from Lekomski. Little bit of scrub on the tyres, but is it going to be enough? Let's see. Comes up to the line. Does scrub some time, but it's 2 milliseconds ahead of Top A to take pole position with 6 minutes to go. Can there be any return fire from the rest of the field? Let's see. Alves, for instance, 0.832. Looking up on the time. Could make some jumps here himself and is only going to get into P4, but it's still an impressive run nonetheless, as many others are now looking to get something on the board or to improve it themselves. As we can see at the bottom, we've got Cohen, Zibble and Korsman all going for chances here.
2000s between first and second place. That's the margins to expect in PSGL PCF2. We take a look at one of the drivers who hasn't got a lap time on the board, Gregory, who wasn't able to complete last season. He's back now and hopes to complete this season, but let's see where he's going to be able to get in this first qualifying session of the season, as he is about to come across the line, and he's set to the board of 1 minute 15.119, and he'll be looking to go faster and improve with that, with 5 minutes to go on the clock.
Gotta say, a little bit rough there from Zibble, considering the amount of time he has left. He's only got really one more chance to make a good lap out of this session. It's going to be a bit of a difficult one here to make work, but that being said, it's going to be plenty of action in this final 5 minutes of quality. And I gotta say, looking at this field, it's amazing. And I always get reminded of this and almost feel surprised when I really shouldn't. The pace that is on display and the closeness of the drivers. But as we say that, Top 8 has gone out of sync with the field, caught us all, and in the end has got into the 0.6s, the first driver to do so, as Sabrino is going to bow out of the session.
Step forward or go backwards. That's how it is in this type of qualifying session. All the drivers will be needing to try and push on even further. We are watching Korsman as he comes into the pit lane. Everyone now coming into the pit lane as they prepare for that one final lap where the track will be at its best and where performance will definitely need to come from all of these drivers right at the end. But Tope, as you mentioned, now at the front with the only driver with a 1 minute 14.6. Let's see who's going to be able to jump him. Let's see who's going to be able to get ahead of him in these final few minutes.
We have a couple of chances for a few drivers. We can see that Luca has just jumped in to a very solid spot. 0.821, sort of chancing their way out the rest of the field, but with only 3.5 minutes left to go, that begs the question of if he'll have enough time to go for one more. it's going to be very tight. By the time they get back to the pit lane, it's going to be looking like at least a 2-minute timestamp, and that would bring you very dangerously close to when the checkered flag falls. That last few seconds is going to be down to the wire, and you can see the rest of the field is waiting for very precise timing. Notice how nobody's moving. Rapasa is trying to get back to the pits as soon as they can, but I think we are going to see, all at once, a mass deluge of cars out that pit lane.
Absolutely. And then we're going to see improvements left, right, and center on that timing page. That it's always going to be exciting to see who is going to find a step forward when they require it. One driver with no laptop on the board, that is Harvey Cohen, currently in 20th position. Sergio Sabrino in 10th. That's the best that he is going to manage in this session. But surely with drivers behind all improving, it is going to mean that he could find himself dropping down even more places. We take a look out of the circuit. We've now got the group of cars all heading out, and it's going to be led by Jan Halliday at the moment as he tries to chase pole position.
Halliday's definitely got a point to prove out here this season. They have got maybe a little bit of a chip on their soldier where they got so close last time to making a real fight at the front. They had their moments of brilliance and really brought the fight on their top days, and now this could be their crucial chance to make something out of this season. Season 38 looking like the one that he's banking on to show his stuff, and with a .729, that P3 spot is looking promising. He's going to actually let the other McLaren of Lukumski go ahead, maybe as a means to set his own personal marker. Might be one of those drivers that functions a bit better with someone ahead to chase and challenge.
Absolutely, visibly, if the gap is closing between you and the car ahead, always for some drivers that can be some encouragement that you're on a good lap and get them to push even further, along with their delta going green, which all the drivers are going to be hoping that they find on this final run in qualifying. And now making his way, blasting down towards the first corner is Lukumski. Let's see what he's going to be able to do from second position. Can he put the pressure on Tope, who will also get a chance? He'll get the right to reply later on in this session as well. With a minute now to go on the clock, he's still on the outlap as Lukumski now is about to see what he has managed in the first sector. Is it an improvement, or is he going to be down and finding himself with a lot to do in the second sector, which is basically straight, and then the third sector as well, which is some chicanes, and Lukumski is down, so he's got to find some time in the remainder of this lap.
It's exactly a tenth of a second down too, so this is going to be a bit of a dicey one. He has got the dominant time in the second sector, so maybe his aero setup is leaning towards this mid-section of the track a lot more. Though he's lost even more heading into sector 2. We'll have to wait and see what he does and what he makes of this one, as it looks like Jan Halliday has yielded off of their lap. They have either invalidated or decided that this is not the run for them. Luca Rapasa is going to be within a few seconds of the line. However, are they going to be able to make it in time? 5 seconds to go. It's going to be extremely close. I don't think they're going to make it. No, they will not have a chance to go once more. And unfortunately for them, the best they're going to get is P8. No improvement from Lukumski, and they are going to be going home with no improvements in pocket. Alves, though, .605, as many other cars are going to be making their way through. Marples coming in is going to be trying to push, but no improvement there. Goes for a massive kick of the rear as they cross that line, and many other cars are going to be following suit. Korsman really impressing with an out-of-the-blue P3.
Korsman, Leetard, P3, P4 for two drivers that were in F3 last season. Here we go, though. We look to Angelo, who goes to the front of the field. What a brilliant lap at the end to take pole position for Angelo. A 1 minute 14.5. Riccardo Benzoni now comes across the line. He gets into the top 10. He gets the P9. But what a performance right when it requires for Angelo, who was promoted from F3 due to how far he was ahead of the field. Won in his second F2 race, and now at the start of his first full season, he finds himself with pole position, and he will be looking to take victory.
Well, he's got 2 drivers in the name, so obviously he's got double the pace on tap this evening, it seems. A .577, absolutely dominating Sector 3 in particular. That was a class run there from D'Ortensio, and a quality move to take that pole position here out in Australia for the inaugural round of the season. I don't think you can make a stronger statement than that in terms of pre-race moves. But you can see the timings on full display on the board. Diotenzio is going to take pole with Alves lining up alongside in the first row. Top A and Korsman are going to be in row 2 with Latour, Lukumski, Halliday, Linhart, Benzoni and Marples making up your top 10. Unfortunate days for the likes of Lund, Salza, Rapasa not quite getting that full pace on tap, particularly Rapasa not being able to go for that second run, missing by seconds, followed by Sabrino, Zibil, Presikin, Koya, Kjeldsen, Stevens, and then Cohen. Unfortunately, not setting a timeout here. A concerning start for Cohen's season in particular, I gotta say.
Absolutely not the way that you want to start your campaign, but it'll be interesting to see what comeback he's going to be able to provide us in the race as well. Really looking forward to that and seeing what he is going to be able to do. But an interesting qualifying session's definitely going to lead us to an interesting race, and we predicted F2 to be wide open. It absolutely is wide open. It is absolutely delivering this season. Absolutely loving the action that we've been treated to in terms of one lap pace. Let's see how we get the action in terms of now racing. As I mentioned, 4 DRS turns, so we should be expecting lots of overtaking.
Yep, and it's going to be an absolutely amazing race. And before we do get into the race, first thing I want to say is to all of the PSGL team who have made their way to Sim Racing Expo, have fun. Hope you're enjoying yourselves. And we wish we were there too, over up in Dortmund. And the expo's looking great, but so if you see any of the PSGL team up there, don't be afraid to say hi. But on the other note, on a more general sort of topic, we are having a little bit of a change up for this season, so we are infilling for this race. If you want to catch myself and Omi specifically, we will be on the F3 slot from the next week onwards, which will be an hour earlier. But you are joined by the amazing TK and Alex, the wonder pair, who's going to be in here from week 2 onwards, and it's going to be an absolutely amazing grid that they are going to be looking forward to. So with that all being said, folks, we have reserves on the infield tonight, but what a grid that we are having this season. It's going to be nothing short of brilliance.
Yeah, absolutely. And even those reserves delivering some brilliant performances. Korsman with a brilliant performance. Then we had Kiana Littard with a brilliant performance. Those two having battled all the way through. I remember commentating on them when they were back in F5, and they were both performing brilliantly and fighting for those titles as well. Felipe Sal's also a part of that scrap. So a really, really interesting field, this F2 grid. And remember, these are the stars of tomorrow. These are all of the stars that are trying to get in the conversation to try join some esports teams as well. And there is plenty of opportunities. Last season we had, of course, Julian Klavenbach getting to race in PCF1 for a round as well. So if they get it right here, then some great accolades could await for all of these drivers, and some great opportunities definitely will come up for them.
Yep, and of course, with that also being an important factor in mind, this grid is not just the fast drivers. This grid is potential third seats at major teams. This is development drivers. This is academy drivers. These are, as you said so succinctly, the stars of tomorrow. This is what eventually is going to be the next generation of F1 sim racing, and I, for one, cannot wait for it. So let us know in the chat, of course, who you are rooting for out there as we get ourselves ready and rigged up. We're going to take a quick moment to talk about our sponsor, to have a quick word from the likes of GT Omega and Sim Racing Center. But in the meantime, let us know who you are rooting for as we start this new season, and we'll be right back with you, folks. quick word from, of course, GT Omega. And folks, of course, support the people who support us. We're very thankful to have GT Omega and Sim Racing Centre join us for yet another season. So, of course, massive thank you to them for continuing to enable what we do here. And if you use code PSGL at checkout, whether you're getting, say, new racing seat, gaming chair, or you're looking to get something like coaching or the best setups that you can get for F1, then you know where to go. Use code PSGL, get a little bit of a discount, and support what we do over here. So, of course, massive thanks to them, as always, and returning for another season, it does not go unnoticed. A bit of a quicker analysis on the track, however. 14 corners, 5.3 kilometers, and 4 DRS zones. This is probably one of the spiciest tracks on the calendar, if nothing else, for the fact that there are so many overtaking opportunities because of how many areas are opened up with the wing.
Yeah, absolutely. Plenty of overtaking opportunities, as you mentioned, and as I've already mentioned, 4 DRS zones, meaning that there will be plenty of opportunities for the driver, especially come the last lap. There will, of course, be DRS trains, but there is lots of opportunities for the drivers just to try catch each other out, use a bit off the battery, pull alongside, and then we'll be watching, hopefully, some daring moves being made from these drivers, and hopefully on the clean side as well. And keeping your front wing intact is going to be critical for them all. Everyone wants to start this season on a high. If you aren't able to do that, it can lead to lack of confidence all the way through the early part of the season. And while there is plenty of races, they all go by quickly. And if you're not able to get a good start, it does leave you with a lot of hard work to do in the remaining part of the season.
Well, it's also opening up some opportunities for counterplay too. For every driver who is pushing on the DRS, you can have another driver who's sticking behind, opening the wing, and using the drag to recover some battery, or at least not deploy as hard to retain the same distance. This is that strategic counterplay, that sort of micro and macro skills, knowing when to go for the fights. I think that's what we're going to see most of all. We've seen some brilliant times out there. We've seen some absolutely immense speed being put on full display out there tonight. So Alves, for instance, dominating Sector 1. Sector 2 actually went to Zibil. And then you had Diotensio taking it home on Sector 3. Very, very impressive run indeed. But we are going to see a solid mix, not only of speed, with pace, of course, but also we're going to be able to separate from the good drivers, the truly great ones, just by how they navigate that moving battlefield on track, to see how they approach different challenges and knowing when the right time is to fight, not just if they can fight it.
Yeah, absolutely. That strategic game, especially around a tight circuit like this, where a move that possibly isn't on could lead to a spin, could lead you going all the way to the back of the field, could lead you into the barrier as well. So lots at risk, lots at stake here in PSGL PCF2, and getting those early points is going to be critical. Let's see if Rapasa can make a bit of a comeback after not being able to get to the flag in time to begin a final run. Very, very crucial, where Angelo was able to find the improvement when it required. But let's see whether he'll be able to do it in 29 laps of the Albert Park Street Circuit, where there is definitely a lot more for these drivers with strategy and also possibly other hurdles like safety cars. So anything's possible in this race as we get ready to begin a brand new season of
And
PSGL.
And just before we do that as well, we popped it on the screen here, the calendar and the kinds of races that we can expect. It's a 12-round season, and it's going to take us all the way to the end of January, with a couple of breaks like the break at the end of November, and of course, the festive break too. We have Australia, followed by Texas, Belgium, Canada, and Qatar in the first leg. And then when we come back, it's Monaco, Britain, Netherlands, and Saudi Arabia, but then Japan, Las Vegas, and Bahrain to finish. But, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the other races a little bit later on, because we have got quite an interesting predicament. We have ourselves Wet Australia. I don't really believe what I'm seeing here.
Absolutely. Well, chuck all of the 4 DRS talk in the bin. Here we go. We've got wet conditions, rain coming down in Melbourne, and we're about to get a wet start for this season. Well, we didn't think it would get any more spicy, but I think it just has.
Yep, the fire is out and the rain is in, as everyone is now going to be faced with a much different predicament. because with the lobby reset to get rid of slipstream during qualifying, this does give drivers a crucial chance to adapt their setups and strategy ready for the race ahead. And where we have that lobby reset, it does also reset some of the tire strategy. So we will have to factor that in. And while it is a sort of stopgap measure until F1 25 with the slipstream, this is going to be interesting to introduce some new racing dynamics as well.
Absolutely is going to be the case, but definitely a different approach now for the drivers to take in this race with the rain coming down, and it's definitely going to transform what we are going to see out there on the circuit. A very interesting way to start season 38 for PSGL PCF2, and we're moments away as the drivers do get their race strategy, their fuel, and load their setups as well, which will be a bit different now with the conditions that they face, and then they'll also look at how long the rain is going to last. They'll have to factor that all in before they take the 5 red lights.
Well, the engineers are going to be coming into play in full force here. They are going to be their eyes in the sky, and the eyes that they are going to need in order to be able to navigate this race. Of course, everyone's going to be jumping onto those inters, but when you come off those tyres, if you come off those tyres, is going to be crucial to really maximising the potential of this race. And we will, of course, see who comes out on top on a strategic front. We don't know quite yet how long this rain is going to last for, but it's looking like the skies are completely overcast. So we don't actually think, I personally don't think, that at least for the first half of the race at minimum, we're going to see any change in the weather. The weather is looking absolutely dour here.
It absolutely is. So it could change later on in the race, but it seems like at least for the early part of it, the weather is going to be wet and nothing but for these drivers to try tackle around this 14 turn circuit, and they're about to start doing that now.
And there we go. The track may be sopping wet, but the track is hot once more. Season 38. Let's do this. We are back in, and it's going to be a flurry of cars making that way down the start-finish straight. Really strong start for Alves, trying to get that early push as soon as possible. Bit of a snake and a bit of a wobble as the rest of the field all contends for position. Whoa! Looking 2, 3 wide as there is going to be jostling for space. D-Sync is going to be in play as well as the two Williams are trying to take that early storming lead in through this race. It's looking like it's going to be wet all the way through, and the drivers are certainly going to be under some serious pressure as we're seeing quite a lot of the field actually on the extreme wets.
It is going wild for PSGL PCF2 on the opening lap. Toppe's got the intermediates and he's powered them past Nelson Alves and Angelo as well. We're on board with P4 right now, Tia Sportsman, who is watching Angelo ahead, trying to put the pressure on Alves. It has been a crazy start to the championship as we expected. We've got Lukumski trying to go around the outside of the McLaren. This is going to get really close, 3 wide into turn 9. Backing out of it is the PSF1 champion from last season, Luca Ripasa. Hanging onto the car is Lukumski as well, and there's going to be an opportunity now for Sergio Sabrino. In reserve last season, full-time this, and he's trying now to go the long way around. Can he get there around the outside of the McLaren as we make our way through the kick Sauber? Is he going to be able to make the move? Still on the outside line, still being ultra brave though, but it could mean that he loses a place to the Mercedes, and he does as Ripasa goes through, and round the outside comes Daniel as well.
And we got back at the front as well, Alves and Diotencio. You threw me off there with the name, with the double. And it's going to be a race between the two. Tope going very aggressive on those inter tyres and seeing so many others on the extreme wet. This could be a big gamble for them. On the one hand, if it stays at this same water level, they have a fighting chance. But alternatively, if it continues to get even worse, if the rain degrades the track surface even more, they could face a serious issue as those inters just won't be able to displace enough water to be able to make this race strategy work. Plenty of jostling in the midfield as well as the fight rages on. Marples looking for a top 5 spot on Latour, but we can see the game itself recommends full wet all the way through, so it's a high risk, high reward play for those on the green walls.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we've only just begun the season. We're already seeing different strategies and some gambles coming into play. Once again, we've got a McLaren trying to contend down to Taliban. This time around, it's Ben Marples trying to put the pressure on the Red Bull of Keanu Lee Todd as he makes his way through towards the braking zone now as well. of turn number 11, where some drivers will be trying to make some moves. Lukumski has lost out a lot of time, and it could mean that he's under pressure from Rapasa, and it does mean, as Rapasa trying to go all the way around the outside, he would have been on the outside line, but he was brave, and he was able to get through at turn number 11. The long way around sends him to P8 right now, still drifting and sliding the car through as he tries to keep it in a straight line, and now tries to close in on the top 7.
Well, if his rear is fully loaded in terms of a setup, he can get away with a little bit of slip angle and still keep it together. Got to be careful because he can very easily rotate the car a bit too much and get himself in a situation he can't escape. But that being said, he's handling it masterfully thus far and has got certainly a good opportunity here to make up some time. The DRS not being a factor has given him a little bit of opportunity to go for even higher. We've got Zivil and Koya briefly trading blows for the position of P11, but not quite making anything of it as Diotensio is starting to close the gap between himself and Tope. Now, the Inter versus the wet. I don't know how heavy the rain is falling for the drivers, but could you make a case here that Tope is banking on a dry line being formed and then really using that Inter's contact patch to push ahead?
I think he definitely could be trying it. Definitely with some hope and some ambition with this differing strategy to all of the other drivers, or most of the other drivers, as there we go. We could be about to see another change for the lead. Angelo goes up the inside line. Tope, though, with a better exit. It's close between first and second in the race, but Tope stays ahead on the intermediate compound of tires. But yes, he's not the only one on those inters. We've got Sabrino, we've also got Gregory on there as well, as Lukumski now gets past Sabrino, and we've got Liam Stevens, we've got Daniel, Harvey Cohen who started in the back, Bentoni and Felipe Salza. We look at another battle, that's Lukumski trying to find his way round the outside of the 14th and final corner on this circuit, and he is up against now Sergio Sabrino, who is getting past on those intermediate green wall compound of tyres, and that will be super late on the brakes down to turn 1 from Lukumski, but it will not pay off, and instead he'll be under pressure from Daniel.
Yeah, Koya and Lukumski going to keep each other busy with the hopes that Sabrino will be able to push ahead, let those two fight, and give him a bit of breathing room to make a couple of tenths on the competition. We're seeing Tope being the peak pace out there with a 29 and being the driver to watch as the rest of the field continues to jostle for those crucial positions. Diotensio is not letting up, though. They have not yielded an inch, and in fact have only got slightly closer, but penalties are starting to come out for some track limits infringements. We can see Lukumski is going to be the first to get hit, and after such a strong early game presence, it's disappointing to see him drop down like this.
Absolutely, it is definitely disappointing to see, as well as we go single file now down to the 9th turn of the circuit. There's going to be an opportunity for Angelo, who is going for it this time. He is a full car length ahead, but not for much longer. Tope gets the exit. Tope gets the lead once more. Angelo tries to come back immediately, and he was dodged all over the road through there. And this is a battle between these two drivers where Tope is trying his best to hang on. Angelo's trying his best to get through, and this is fantastic stuff as we watch them both make their way out of the final corner, down towards the first corner once again, and Tope looking in his mirrors, having to drive on his mirrors right now, as he's got the Mercedes all over the back, pushing him through these corners.
Well, we may not have the DRS, but we have got the slipstream, and we can see that it is having a pronounced effect as Diotensio is going to go once again, this time going to be making a push through turn 3 to try and go for it. And with the switchback that occurred between the two just a few corners prior, you can see that these two are neck and neck, evenly matched so far as we are 5 laps into the race. Tope is going to finally relinquish a position, but I don't think he's going to be wanting to stay that way for long. He's not going to settle for that, and we can see that he's already teeing up a potential move as he's closing that gap once again. Will there be any heroics heading into turn 9? There's a bit of deploy there, going to peel on side by side through turns 9 and 10. Someone's got to give. It is going to be Tope. They are going to go a little bit further behind. Careful on the apex of turn 10. And will we see any moves here heading in through to turn 11? You can see he goes the outside, a little bit of defensive move from Diotensio, but like we saw last time out, there's the switchback from Tope. That trademark move makes it work twice in a row to re-establish himself in P1.
Absolutely, getting really close. You've got one Williams in the lead, you've got another Williams trying to move up to second place. Alves still on the same strategy, but with how much they've been battling, that is what is causing right now this whole field to bunch up, and that is what is causing the McLaren of Ben Marples trying to make a move on Lintar. We're watching from the F3 champion of last season, 610 Lintar, waiting for his opportunity to try and get involved. Fastest lap from Repasa as Keanu Lintar loses out to Ben Marples, and now there's going to be an opportunity for 610 Lintar to try and get this move done as well, and he's just going to sit in behind, not going to be impatient at this stage of the race. He is on similar strategies with the drivers ahead of him, so no point risking a front wing at this stage. It's all about the strategy of where do you go on the attack for all of these drivers, and Repasta waiting directly in behind and for his opportunity as we take a look once again at Tope, at Angelo, and the never-ending story in the battle for the lead.
Oh, a 129 dead from Rapasa is going to give some credence to the extreme wet tyres being viable and remaining to be a solid option for those who want a bit of car stability. The dry line is starting to appear a little bit, but the rain continues to fall and continues to keep this an ever-evolving track surface as we are pushing this race forward now. We did see a bit of an incident coming out of turn 10 from Felipe Souza. That's dropped them a few seconds adrift of the field, and they're of course going to have to reevaluate their options for this race if they want to make any meaningful comeback. But the Mercedes of Rapasa absolutely tearing through the timings and trying to make some serious moves on the grid. Here it goes on Linhart.
Here he goes, pulling alongside now, and is going to try and get this done when he heads down into the first turn. But right now at this stage, he backs out of it as he gets used to racing here on PC as well. And he'll be looking to try and make some overtakes throughout this contest on lap number 7 out of 29, 3/10, 4/10 out in front between Tope and Angelo as those two start to settle in a bit. Lukumski's the only driver with a penalty, as you can see there as well, right next to the McLaren driver's name in P14, and he will now need to try and keep pushing in this race. It will be hard to overcome that without close to fielders, but a lot of other drivers could also be getting some penalties in a hard, challenging race like this. And Lintar still stuck behind Lita, but he's going to get plenty of opportunities and he'll get a chance to use some of the battery. Leo Lund is pulling alongside Gregory, and he's trying to make his way through a 1.8 second gap ahead, and it's now Leo Lund in 10th, Gregory down to 11th.
And if there is one driver as well that I do feel sorry for, it is Lukumski. Had such a solid chance to make it all work, but in the end has been slapped with that 3 seconds, has been dropped down several positions. Could be said, though, that for them at the same time, many others have had it worse, as Halliday is down 9 and Benzoni is down 10 positions. That is no small gap. Although throughout all of this, despite having some big drops, we've seen some heroics too. We've got, for instance, Liam Stevens up on 7 positions, Marples, Rapasa and Sabrino all up 5, and the fight at the front continues to rage.
It does continue to rage indeed, but that was a fabulous start first of all to the season with 3 wide through the opening few corners. Toppe was able to get there. Toppe has been able to maintain those places on the intermediate compound of tyres, but it's all about whose favour is this going to go in near the in the remaining of this race. Still a long way to go. We're only on lap number 8 out of 29, so still a lot to play out. There still could be plenty of chaos and carnage, and maybe a safety car that resets the race. With Passer once again is close. We're on board with him as he tries to get past 610 Lintar. Is he about to be brave? Down to Turner Banana, champion on a champion from last season, PlayStation PlayStation champion, I should say, from last season, Luca Repasa. And then Lintar, the F3 champion, as he tries to get involved. He's also trying to make a move himself, so this is pass or B-pass stuff in this field. If a driver is running wide, if a driver is making a mistake, it definitely could lead themselves they definitely could leave themselves vulnerable to possibly a bit of an attack from a driver behind. So they all have to be careful. They need to look ahead, they need to look behind. Opportunities will be coming for drivers, and they'll be trying to take it absolutely everywhere. And that is the thing about PC F2, pass or B-pass stuff, which we found out a lot last season.
And we look into the field as we watch them all try to gauge their opponents now. I think that was a smart move to back up from Rapasa there. They did technically have a right to the space because their axle was alongside, or at least slightly ahead of the rear axle of Linhart for at least a split second, but they saw the gap closing, they knew the writing was on the wall, and that's the point where you ask yourself, is it worth this high aggression, or could I potentially go for a safer move that's more likely to guarantee me a spot? So Rapasa making the smart choice out of the two, biding his time, despite clearly having the pace on tap and the proximity to do it. It's going to be a bit of an interesting one to weigh up and watch out for. Lukumski getting hit with another 3 seconds, though. This has truly gone from bad to worse here, as he's now going to be stacked with 6 seconds onto his final race time, which, according to some commentator napkin math, which I've definitely not just conjured up in my brain, is going to leave them in P19, if not P20.
Yeah, it's going to definitely be very, very interesting near the end of the race. If any other drivers do possibly pick up some time penalties as well, that could definitely help Lukumski, but definitely not what he wants. On only lap number 9 and still plenty of a way to go in this race. We're watching Jan Halliday, and he is right now with Harvey Cohen, who started at the back, still is near the back, but is trying to go on the attack, and Lukumski dives it into the pit lane as Leo Lund sets the fastest lap of the race, and Lukumski becomes our first retirement of the season.
To be expected, to be honest. He was down on his luck, and he did have 6 seconds of penalties, and at that stage, you make the judgment call, save the mental strength for the next race. This one might as well be a goner. He's out of the points, and doesn't have those same stakes anymore. It's going to be extremely difficult with the wet conditions to be able to peel that one back. Albers, though, strong start, has dropped a single position since their beginning. Tope is absolutely storming through this field right now on those inters, looking like an unstoppable weapon, as they are half a second clear on the green walls and very much got plenty of fight left in them. It does make me wonder when the drivers are looking to consider their pit switch window. But we see Sabrino and Lund go for the trade. Lund is now into P9. Very nicely done through into turn 9. Sabrino getting caught a little bit off guard, I think, because we did see a bit of a wobble from them coming out of turn 10. Is there going to be any retaliatory action from Sabrino? Let's see what they do in that kick Sauber as they remain in close proximity to the RB.
Absolutely. So, Sabrino then, right now, making his way after being passed by Lund, and we've got Harvey Cohen going backwards, further back as well. He drops down to P16, 2/10 right now between Nelson Niles and Angelo. So Nelson Niles seems like he is really close to making the move. He is close, but not close enough at this stage in the battle. That is for second position, but we're watching Sabrino as he tries to have a bit of a fight back up against the V-Carb driver of Leo Lund, and a very fascinating part of this race as a bit of the field starts to spread out. You've still got the top 8 train though for the race lead as well on the 11th lap, with top 8 on those intermediate compound of tyres, and it seems like Nelson Alves really does want to get on with it. He really wants to put the pressure on Angelo, who is also in turn going to be under pressure on T.S. Korsman. So you're going to have a three-way battle for this second position, with them all closing in on top as we head down towards turn number 9. Does Alves pull alongside, or is he going to wait for his opportunity in a couple of corners that is going to come his way? Angelo's going to be able to pull the gap a little bit as well, a couple of tenths there as we head down to the braking zone. Sabrina now picking up a 3-second penalty, the driver in P10, so that will be disappointment for him, and that will be added to the end of his race time.
So that would put him realistically anywhere from P13 to P14 by the end of it all, which is, of course, disappointing for Sabrino, as they were looking for some real push upwards, and they are going to have those hopes unfortunately dashed for the time being. Doesn't mean they can't put on a solid race, but it is going to, of course, indicate a bit of a struggle maybe that they are having a bit further down. The wet is quite a difficult beast to tame, and the curious wrinkle in all of this is that most drivers, they will do the majority of their practice in the dry, because that's the condition you expect. So it really is a test to go for maybe, especially those with more aggressive driving styles, into a situation where you have to be a bit gentler with the throttle, gentler with the steering input, and you have to ease into your race a lot more.
Yeah, absolutely. Adaptability definitely needed for these drivers as we take a look at Alt with Korsman closing in right now. And we're watching with Aston Martin of Korsman as he looks to close in. Really fascinating stage with how the tyres are playing out. Tope able to maintain the advantage. He's not able to stay though with Tope at the front of the field as well. So it's definitely going to be about the next few couple of laps about who it's going to favour. Talking about favouring, let's see. Is the inside line going to favour Lee Todd in his hope of getting to 6th position? It is, and we have Lindart who gets past Gianni Lee Todd, who drops down to 7th position. And the Alpine driver who's been eyeing up that move for a bit has finally completed it, as into the pit lane comes Nelson Elves.
Yeah, bit of a strategic change up there, and we are going to see some drivers consider the pit window in a couple of laps, if not next lap. We've got Alves and Lund both heading in at this stage. We are going to see them head onto a set of inters and extreme wets respectively. So both compounds still being treated as viable. The rain has not eased off in any meaningful way, but we are seeing quite a show here. We've got a couple of drivers who are maybe on the ropes a little bit. Latour has to be very careful because he is 1 warning away from a penalty. Got currently sat on 3 warnings, and one of them being minor enough to not be counted towards that 3 warning total. But this means any off-track infraction is going to hit them with that 3 seconds. Benzoni is on 2. Koya on 2. We have also some other drivers like for instance, Korsman, who is also on 2 warnings. And the racers are now going to have to be a little bit more reserved with the lines that they are taking.
They absolutely will need to, as well as we have seen, of course, Alves dive it in, Leo Lund dive it in. Both going for different options there with the pit stop. And it is really, really turning out to be a very interesting race on the strategy front as well, with so many different decisions being made by these drivers as we continue to watch this battle for the lead out in front on the 14th tour, as Stevens now becomes the latest driver to dive it in to the pit lane. Bit of a correction there for Korsman, who is looking at the Mercedes ahead, and Korsman with plenty of ERS at this stage. He'll be waiting for the right moment to pounce and to try and make an overtake, as we pass us side by side with Lindhardt as well, and it's going to get close between these 2 drivers. It is going to be the Mercedes who is just going to be ahead, and it's going to be Repassa who is ahead of Lindhardt, who's now in 6th position. 1.2 seconds is the gap to Ben Marple, so these guys losing a bit of time battling with each other.
Lindhardt suddenly pushing on the aggressive, with Repassa almost getting caught off guard as the Alpine pulled alongside. Managed to defend well, but certainly not out of trouble just yet. You can see that Alpine is aggressive in their push and aggressive in their strategy here, getting the most out of those extreme wets while they are still in that viable window. I do have to wonder, though, with the amount of on-track driving that this race has experienced, you have to look at the field, look at the surface, and see that a dry line is now much more distinct. So I think at this stage, the inters are the only real viable option for a pit switch.
Yeah, absolutely. Does seem to be heading that way, as we also do see Repassa diving in, Leotard into the pit lane as well. And Tope right now finding himself continuing out there, even when the wets seemed like the better tyre. He was able to maintain the advantage near the early few laps in this race. Ever since then, they kind of got into a bit of a rhythm, and Tope's been leading Angelo, who's been close behind, as we have Riccardo Benzoni, who is out of the race. So that is disappointment for him, and he is our 2nd retirement of the season as Leo Lund sets the fastest lap.
Some rapid pace being shown as we have our 2nd retiree, and we have Tudor Pressigan also doing the same, retiring out in the pit lane, deciding that this is not his day. But this has unexpectedly lended an opportunity to the rest of the field to really push up and make some chances out of this one. Korsman is going to be peeking to the back of Diotenzio. Is there going to be any move there? Peeks to the right. No dice. No such opportunity being offered, unfortunately, for them. Sabrino now, through this pit change and through the retirements, is seeing themselves, curiously, in P6 and has got enough of a gap, at least with Brazil and Halliday behind, to retain at least P7 if the current holdings stand.
Absolutely. as we are about to see more cars diving it in to the pit lane. As we have second, third, fourth, Angelo, Korsman, Ben Marples all diving it in as they come into the pit lane. As Harvey Cohen picks up a 3-second time penalty, Tope continues out in front, but not the debut that Prezakan would have wanted as he joins PSGL and makes his debut for the first time, as well as had some other league racing experience in the past, but this is today was his first ever PSGL race, as well as he also adapts from console to PC, and he'll be looking to fight in the next few rounds, but not the Australia round that he would have wanted. As we watch them all make their way through, we're on board with Leo Lund, who is trying to make 3 cars possibly by the time that he gets to turn number 3. Was trying to make a triple overtake as we head through, and it's going to be the Mercedes of Repasa to the inside. The Mercedes are wheel to wheel, and it is going to be Repasa ahead of Angelo, Dennis Lund, and then it's Ben Marples on those inters.
Well, Lund is on the penalty as well, so this means that he's going to have to be more aggressive. He doesn't have a choice if he wants to have any shot at damage control from that stewarding decision. He's going to see where he can go from there. It was unfortunately boxed in. Didn't have any chance to make an overtake more than one on Marples in this instance. Marples, though, is not going to have any of it. He's going to fire it around the outside of turn 8, and heading into turn 9 is going to re-establish themselves in that top 10. A brilliant run there from the McLaren, showing their strength, showing their stripes, and pushing up into these next positions as the two Mercedes continue to fight for track space. You've got D'Ortenzio and Repasa both fighting for the same corner. That's going to be Repasa on the inside. A little bit of contact from the teammate there. Not exactly going to be a happy relationship between the two, but Marples also going briefly into the back. Looks like their front wing is still fully intact, but this is getting very close for comfort here. More drivers now heading into the pits. Tope swapping out the inters for a fresh set, along with Halliday doing the same onto a set of inters. We were thinking that Tope going a bit out longer on those aging inters could give him a bit of a gap, but of course see where he comes out. He comes out in 4th and actually comes out behind Alves by 1.5 seconds. So that undercut has played well in the other Williams' favour.
Absolutely. He'll have fresher tyres. He will go hunting though and try and retake that position as well in this race. Tope's been absolutely brilliant all the way through. And now let's see what he will be able to do in the final stages of this one. Alves also having to get past some traffic now of Daniel, as he'll be trying to clear the Ferrari, who is going round once again. We're on board with Nelson Alves, who will be hoping to get ahead when he applies the power out of this corner. Now turn number 10 heading towards turn 11. It's a little bit close between the two of them, not as close as Alves would want it. Now he'll try be late on the brakes, and when he stands on the power, you'll hope he has the position that's so close to contact. And the more they battle, the more that Nelson Alves loses time to Tope, who has now arrived on the scene. And now Tope is going to have the same goal of having to overtake the Ferrari, as Alves finally makes the move. He's about to take the lead with our race leader right now on the circuit into the pit lane. Now Tope is about to try pull alongside and make the move down towards the first corner.
Tope going for the chance on Hjeltsen. He knows that those 16, now 17 lap old Inters are going to be crying out for a change, and they are not going to be holding that pace for long. Tope taking full advantage here, now on that fully fresh set to sweep around, sweep past, and really make the most of the grip they have available. Now, the 4-lap difference between Alves and Tope is going to be extremely crucial, especially towards the end of that race. We do see a pace drop-off towards the end, and with all of the dry line being carved, this does mean there might be a crossover point if the rain eases, where these Inters will switch from being a very fine adaptable tyre into something that starts to overheat and blister very quickly.
Yes, absolutely. Going to be the situation the drivers find themselves in, as we further back have plenty of overtaking, plenty of action in some of these DRS trains as well. We now watch it right now, and that is going to be close between Angelo and T.S. Korsman, and that is going to be Korsman is going to stay ahead for the moment as Ben Marples gives a little bit of a tap to Angelo, And Angelo continues on going, but they're all so close together. They're all waiting for an opportunity. Is anyone going to go for a dive? The McLaren of Ben Marples dives down the inside, trying to make an opportunistic move. While Angelo was stuck in some traffic and he was trying to get past one Mercedes, he could lose out to another. Luca Ripasa has arrived on the scene now as well, as we make our way once again down towards the first corner. We have Sauser being overtaken by Korsman, who's getting through when we get on the brakes for turn number 1, and he is through as well, and that will now be the task ahead of Angelo, who's also got to get past Felipe Sauser, who is trundling around and is playing a massive part in this battle.
Well, we have just 10 laps of racing left to go. Diotensio going for a big send on that inside run and is going to be getting quite a substantial amount of headway done. Big contact between the two. The McLaren's in the wall. That's the RB as well, collecting a couple of the other cars and following suit. Major contact all of a sudden. This field has exploded in a furore of carbon fiber and contact into the walls, as that is going to be Linhart trailing behind his teammate Stevens, who is going to be waiting to see what happens of this field. We have Lund completely getting caught off guard by all of that, missing half of their front wing and desperately trying to keep that car gripped up.
Absolutely, it has gone wild for PSGL. 3 wide, very nearly 4 wide. And the McLaren once again of Ben Marples is shown the wall. They're all over the road as we get on the power. It'll be the Kick Sauber who will exit ahead, and that is going to be Lethal under a bit of pressure. And off the road, there goes Leo Lund. Leo Lund's off the road. Lindorf round the outside in the Alpine. That will give the opportunity now as he gets shoveled wide. Ben Marple says thank you very much. Can he turn in on the exit of turn number 14? Can he find his way through? And once again, we're very nearly 3 wide. Up ahead, that is Angelo getting his way through as well on Korsman. And then we have Daniel who's ahead of all of them. Leo Lund has retired from the race. That is in the pit lane once again, very nearly 3 wide down the straight, and they're really risking it at this stage of the contest. Now the opportunities for Korsman to try and go the long way around, turn the outside, back to the inside. Still they'll go wheel to wheel, still they'll have a fight out of this exit now towards turn number 9. Someone surely got to go give an inch as we head to the place where there was contact 1 lap ago, which has sent all of this battling on the circuit alive, and it is going to be Daniel, then Angelo, then Korsman, then Ripasa, but they're not done yet. They will continue squabbling towards turn 9.
This is absolute insanity on the field. One single catalyst is all it took for the field to explode and for drivers to suddenly go for those 2-3 wide moves, gauge every single space they can. It's side by side through turns 9 and 10. You just don't do that around Australia, but they still make it work, and Ripasa gets into P4. An insane move there, especially in the wet. That is bravery if I have ever seen it. Diotensio is not going to have any of it though, and is going to be quickly re-establishing themselves as a fighter for that podium. The teammates are continuing to duke it out, as you see Sabrino and Salsa going for a fight of their own, training spots, going left, right, center. And Diotensio is eventually going to get wrapped up with Korsman, as this lower end of the field is going to be raging on. All of this means, however, you look to the top and you see the 2 Williams are absolutely getting away with it. Kjeldsen is 7 seconds down and counting. Remember, he's still on his OG set of inters, and that pace is going to be dropping like a stone at this point, which Ripasa is going to be taking ample advantage of with a quick slide and a good run through turns 3 and 4.
Absolutely, it's a Williams personal battle out in front to win this race, unless there is a shake-up, which right now at this stage, with how they're risking it, there absolutely could be a shake-up at some stage of this race. They've been all over the road all the way through over the last few laps, and they will continue to do that as Tope gets ahead of Nelson now round the outside before they get to turn number 9, and now the field, the rest of them, which are all battling like crazy as Angelo gets past, and he gets past the Ferrari up to 4th position. We now join this battling live. You've got the Kick Sauber of Sabrino trying to find a way through. Lindhart round the outside of Felipe Sauser, and he's got through up to P9 right now. And now Sergio Sabrino is wheel to wheel with Liam Stevens. Korsman's also in the mix, and he's directly ahead of this scrap. And around the outside, bit more debris coming off, and it's all over the road for Lindhart as the Kick Sauber front wing gets kicked off of Sabrino, who makes his way through, and it's Lindhart steaming around the outside of Lindhart, who gets by as well. You've got multiple Alpines in the mix. You've got both Alpines battling their way through. You've got Lindhart, and then that is close nearly into the pit exit for Korsman in the Aston Martin, Liam Stevens, as we have Sergio Sabrino, who has gone off the road. Sergio Sabrino has gone off along with Sixten Lindhardt, and with how they were battling, contact was always going to happen, and it finally has happened for these drivers, and it's definitely not what they would have wanted. Jan Halliday also in the mix, and this is really getting wild at Australia.
System with the pin on Sabrino. There's no real other way to describe it. We saw in the background as the fighting continued further up, but Lindhardt goes around the back left side, gets it caught, and in the end Sabrino is almost pit maneuvered into the wall. They're both pinned down, and they have nowhere to go, dropping themselves thoroughly to the back of the field. What is going on with some of the drivers out here tonight? It is nothing short of chaos, and we are seeing everyone pushing so hard to go for these positions, often leading in some cases to disaster. Marples, for instance, down in P12, could have had some real momentum here, but unfortunately is missing an end plate, and certainly has been taking some shots in the talent department as they have had to fight and duke it out. Contact left, right, centre with many other cars in this grid. Things are starting to stabilise now, but with a few laps to go, the writing might be on the wall for some. We're seeing a couple of local yellows. That's going to be Lindhardt once again after sustaining heavy damage to what looks like most of the front of the chassis.
Well, it was a question of where you look in this race. Cars left, right and centre in the rain, and where we had the extra level of chaos with the rain at the start of the race. We probably knew that this is exactly what was going to happen. A very chaotic race as Lindhardt becomes another retirement, and he'll be a driver who will be looking to contend later on in this season. And guess what? We're cutting to more three wide. We're cutting to more outrageous battling. That's Lindhardt around the outside of Korsman. These two battled all the way during the lower tiers as well, and it's Lindhardt who's got ahead of Korsman, and we're watching from the rear view of the Ferrari, who's been in so much battling today, who has really been defending for his life, and you'll need to do a bit more of it now because Lindhardt pulled to the outside line down towards turn number 9. Is he going to have the momentum? Is he going to have the speed to get this maneuver done? He's on the outside line. He'll be a full car length ahead by the time that they hit the brakes for the 9th turn, as we also see Kua get past T.S. Korsman, who is dropping down a position, so that's another Ferrari who is moving up. Angelo gets past his teammate, and the never-ending story between the Mercedes continue as well. These two have been battling at it all race long, and it continues right now on lap number 23.
Lap 23 or 29, and things are looking just as aggressive as they always were. Hjelton, I think, though, has run out of time. He's tried to zero-stop it along with Salsa, and fight as he might, you can see the grip difference even just between his teammates and himself, already knocking on the door. Corner to corner, every single moment is a new threat. Zibil's trying to capitalize on his teammate getting stuck behind him, as Marples and Halliday are going to be fighting it out all the same. You can barely see through the amount of rain coming down, forming that mist on the ground and producing a little bit of a fog layer with the spray. But you can see Halliday, Marples going for it. Korsman is going to be getting involved in the fight as well, and that is going to be a little bit of an extent onto the grass as Korsman has nowhere else to go. Unfortunate for them. Very much looking like a lot of drivers are going to be making some reports after this one.
Last round of the season, stewards are going to be busy, especially with this tier as well. I'm sure all of the other ones have been pretty wild as well, and that is really close high speed, as we saw Gregory trying to find a way through now. Can he do it when we head down to turn number 9? He'll be pushing Hjelton through these corners, and he's all over the road. He's all over the road. Contact, as you mentioned, as Sabrina picks up a 3-second time penalty, and now Jan Halliday is moving through as well. The Aston Martin driver has got past one. Can he get past the Ferrari as well? That could be contact at high speed, and it is. And going round is Hjelton. Daniel Hjelton gets sent round, and 3 into 1 did not go, and it means the Ferrari is left off spinning, and he'll continue on now, but as the last runner that remains in this race.
It was a seriously risky pinch there. You had 3 wide at one point, and it was a simple equation of you have a 2-car corner and 3 cars are trying to go in. Someone's got to lose. Unfortunately, with that pace differential, it was going to be Hjelton. They got tipped round with the 2 cars squeezing them out of the bottom of that fight. And unfortunate to see now that the 2 zero stoppers are dead last in this field and doesn't look like they're going to be making any meaningful recovery anytime soon. We cut to the midfield. We can see that Marples has now got himself up into P9 through all of this furore and chaos, which does leave himself in an awkward spot. 1.3 seconds adrift of Halliday, who was their rival they were fighting with just a couple of laps prior, and now there is a limited amount of time, a limited amount of chances for these drivers to go for any more positions. At some point, they're going to have to decide whether they are going to push harder or if they're going to firm their current position and just bring some safe points home. Given the chaos we've had, I would lean towards the latter rather than going for anything risky.
Yes, absolutely. That would be the sensible decision after what we have seen all the way through this contest. But it's been a contest where Top 8 now has a 2-second advantage. As we take a look at our race leader, looking behind, 2 seconds. He's only got a couple more laps to navigate before he is home. But before he gets to the checkered flag, there will be lots of battling. We're already seeing it. Korsman involved in it. That's the Aston Martin placed around the outside. There was nearly contact between the two Aston Martins of Halliday and T.S. Korsman at this corner a few laps ago. Right now, though, it's Korsman trying to outdrag the Kick-Saber when they get into the first turn, and he's going to manage that into the braking zone. All out of shape, though, for Sabrino, and through goes Harvey Cohen into P12.
Many drivers, it's a race to remember, but others, it's certainly a race to forget. I look at the bottom half of the field and I see so many drivers who started on the top end, who by all means had the momentum to really make this work and turn into a strong season opener. But one combat scenario after another just turned this race into a slog for them. And really, sometimes this can happen in racing. Your race can be turned upside down on a moment's notice. You don't have much control over those external factors. It's how you adapt and push beyond those that is part of your measurement as a racing driver. And we are seeing some drivers, despite the heavy setbacks and despite, like Marples here, still running with that front wing damage and is going to be suffering on the grip as a result, but still pushing some serious pace through and is still being a thorn in the side of the drivers like Zibil.
It is indeed right now on the 27th tour. Some of the gaps have started to form on this circuit. Some drivers take the calm approach, trying to bring home the points, trying to bring it home all the way to the end. The other drivers trying to chase after higher positions. That could be the story between the Mercedes, with Passa going for the final spot on the podium versus Angelo. These two drivers could be about to do battle in the final stages of this race, so keep an eye on these two. And we pass her up 9 places, having not been able to get a final run. And Liam Stevens up 14. It's been a race where lots of drivers have been able to progress lots of places. If they've been able to keep their nose clean, that's when the opportunities have come for them. So it's really been a interesting start to the PCF2 Championship.
Yep, and I'm sure that TK and Alex are going to have quite a lot to talk about when they pick this up from the next round onwards. But I have to give a special nod to Stevens, because Stevens has been that driver who's more or less kept themselves out of trouble, just kept their head down and run a good race. They did get involved with some of the battles earlier on, but they have come out mostly unscathed and have managed to make some serious headway to the field. While they don't really see an opportunity to get themselves up into P4 and beyond, what we are seeing right now is Stevens showing that consistency and showing that ability to push forward, which has resulted in them making some serious gains. But look to the top. Top A, 3.3 seconds ahead of his teammate Alves. And I don't know what it is about Top A, but when it comes to the wet, we have just seen them absolutely come alive. It's like an elaborate dance more than a race car I'm seeing right now, as they're perfectly balancing that car through the corners, the perfect amount of slip angle, and really is a sight to behold as they lap the course.
Yeah, absolutely is. And he's about to make his way onto the final lap. It's going to be a enjoyable final lap for him when he heads onto it. 3.8 seconds ahead of his teammate as we take a look at Korsman right on the back of Ben Marples, and Ben Marples is going to try to do all he can to defend, but Korsman has got a penalty anyway, as you can see right now on screen. So with the penalty applied, it will be Ben Marples getting the place anyway.
Yeah, Marples, all he really needs to do is just bring the car home. And he knows that he will have that top 10 position on points because Korsman, Sabrino, and Cohen all have penalties to their name. And they can't necessarily rely on that being removed always. So you have to play to the field as it is now. And Marples is still, of course, wanting to stay ahead of Korsman. They are a racing driver. They want to get it on merit on the course, regardless of the steward's decisions. But he doesn't necessarily have the same pressure as he might have once felt. Same goes with the likes of Latour. He's in a position where he's got 3 seconds to his name. With some good running here on this final lap, he could stretch that gap a bit further potentially to maybe preserve his position. Koya is 2.8 seconds adrift. A couple of tenths could mean the difference on retaining that P6 and some healthy points, or being dropped down to the Ferrari behind.
Absolutely going to be the case also with Halliday and Kuya battling at the end. That could definitely give the opportunity. It's already up to 2.9 seconds on this final lap, and it is going to be Halliday who will be trying to use a bit of the battery, trying to deploy a bit of the battery on the exit and hope that he is able to put the pressure on. It's still 2.8 seconds, but if these two battle, they could find themselves with a situation where they won't gain. Here we go then. Jan Halliday is going to be going for the move, but Tope though, out front. It has been an absolutely fantastic performance. The Williams driver who is making his way to the final corners on the last lap. He was on the podium once last season to start season 38. He is going to take victory. What a difference a few weeks makes for Tope starting a new season with the checkered flag first. Tope wins a brilliant race in Melbourne. It has been a flawless drive in the wet conditions. A Williams 1-2, and it is going to be Alves who finishes in second. Angelo will take the Mercedes to P3. Ripasa, the PSF1 champion, performs well on PCF2 debut to take P4. Then Stevens, Leetard, and then Koya, Halliday, and then Gregory. And Ben Marples, the top 10. It will be close to the line between himself and Korsman, but Ben Marples was going to get that one anyway when the penalties applied for Korsman. Cohen ahead of Sabrino in what was a fantastic race as the final 2 cars come across the line.
And what a showing from this entire field that made it to the end. Tope, this is the Tope we know and want to see. This is the capability that this Williams driver has on tap without a shadow of a doubt. He has proved himself to be the absolute wet weather maestro out here in Australia. What a showing, what a race. And with the 2 Williams drivers taking first and second, it is a remarkable first race for the pairing. And with that, we look to the standings and we can see Tope and Alves first and second. Very good day for the Williams outfit. Though not to be outdone, the Mercedes have done just as well, with D'Ortenzio and Rapasa making third and fourth. Rapasa in particular certainly impressing the field and the crowd, as Stevens, Latour, Koya, Halliday, Zibil and Marples close out your top 10, followed by Korsman, Cohen, Sousa, Sabrino, Hjelton, Lindhart, Lund, Benzoni, Presikin, and Lekumsky. Unfortunately, we didn't see the full stack in the field finish tonight. We had Lindhart down to Lekumsky, all retiring throughout the course of the race. But it has been an absolutely brilliant showing from everyone, regardless of finishing position. And that does put us in a very good stead heading into the season full. Gotta say, I'm very impressed with a few drivers in particular. Tope goes without saying, what a race from them. I really hope we get a chance to talk to them, because I want to hear what was going through their head through that race. They seemed so in control of that car the whole way through.
Yeah, absolutely. They really did. It was a fantastic performance. And as I mentioned, Top Air driver showed lots of pace last season at times. Was only able to get on the podium once, however, and he's already started the season with a victory. So Top Air already showing how talented he is, and it's a really talented field. It's a really talented field this season, as it always is. So if you are able to get it right, then as we've already mentioned, there will be lots of opportunities for these drivers in terms of possibly becoming a third driver in the future, and as well. So there will be lots of opportunities for these drivers if they can get it right here. And Tope's definitely started this season off in some style. And yeah, as you mentioned, it would be great to hear from some of our drivers. But what a start to the season! And if anything to go by, then TK and Alex have got some races coming up in the remainder of this season. What a start to PCF2 in season 38.
What a start indeed, folks. And we will, of course, give it a couple of minutes for the drivers to cool down. Fun tidbit of the day. Cohen said to the Racers chat he's going to be dedicating his last to P12 to Rishan, who couldn't make it out there tonight, who's one of the drivers who is in Dortmund for the Sim Racing Expo. And guess where he finished? He went from P20 to P12. Despite all the chaos, there is some consistency, and Cohen can take a bow on that merit alone. Seriously, I don't know how he managed to make that through all of the chaos, but here we are. The prediction, the premonition coming from Cohen there.
Absolutely incredible stuff there as well to get that exactly spot on as we currently make our way then after round one. Now looking ahead to the next few rounds, I'm sure it's going to get really, really exciting in this season. It was top 8 show today in the wet, but there'll be many other drivers getting involved. Lots of them have showed what they're capable of, what their talent is like. So it's going to be a really interesting season to watch, as well as me and you then go cover F3, which hopefully will be equally as exciting as well. But yeah, it was definitely hard to call some of those PCF2 races. It's been really today. We had cars absolutely everywhere. Sometimes the viewers can be on their own with how much action there is on the circuit.
Yep, and regardless of where the drivers placed today, I think it was such a unique challenge to be thrown in at the deep end with a wet Australia to start the season. It's such a challenge, especially when you've done so much practice in the dry and you have to completely readapt your approach to driving. It's such a difficult balance to get right, and to everyone out there, they brought their absolute A game. I'm seriously impressed. Everyone, P1 through to P20, they showed the kind of pace they had on tap tonight, and we are looking forward to seeing what the racers can do throughout the full course of a season. Talk to any of them, unfortunately, but this does lead us on to the calendar in full, as we will, of course, have an exciting season ahead. We've got 3 distinctive phases of the season. We have an end of November break week, the festive break, and then our final 3 races. So we have got quite a stacked calendar and quite a separated calendar at that. So I gotta say, Omi, if there is any particular track you're looking forward to, what would it be here?
Well, there is quite a lot of tracks that I'm definitely looking forward to. Texas always is an amazing race, wide circuit, lots of overtaking opportunities. Spa's always very good with the long straights. Canada can throw some curveball in terms of weather as well, so that's always quite a bit of fun. Qatar's always very good. Monaco has that own little challenge of it, and it's really fascinating for the drivers when they are able to get some moves done. Silverstone, of course, the home of Formula One, fantastic. And that is always an amazing race in terms of action, where there's overtaking opportunities at basically nearly every corner here in PSGL. Netherlands is going to be a lot of fun. Jeddah last season was absolutely wild for PCF2, so that will be hopefully another great race. Suzuka, we can get some late safety cars like we saw, which gave Jan Halliday the win a season ago. Vegas, I think we all know what's going to happen there as well. Lots of slipstreaming, lots of battling, and that will be a really hard one to call for TK and Alex, I'm sure, with the 4 wide, 5 wide they'll be getting. It's going to go absolutely wild. And then a fantastic way to end the season under the lights in Bahrain. So, I've just said all 12 circuits there. We've already done one, of course, here in Australia, but every circuit is definitely one that I am definitely looking forward to. But in terms of action, I think Silverstone will definitely be one, so will Jeddah, so will Vegas, and Bahrain, of course, if we do get a title fight, it will have a lot of eyes on that final round.
I was very worried that you weren't actually going to give an answer for a second there. I thought you were just going to say all 12 and
Yeah.
and cheat for a second. No, very good choices. I've got to say, for me, Saudi is one that I'm looking forward to in particular, because that track in league racing is such a mesmerizing course to watch the drivers go on. Qualifying never fails to impress, skirting the line between a perfect lap and that very close proximity wall is very much a spectacle to watch. And in terms of the race itself, you see drivers continue to push the limits. They know their limits and they're a bit more conservative with some of the moves, but that doesn't stop them from going for creative strategies, creative moves, and I'm very much excited for that, folks. But unfortunately, no chance to talk to the drivers, but it has been amazing to open the season with you all. We thank everyone for the patience at the start with our little hiccup, and we can, of course, expect a great season ahead. Same time every week. If you want to catch PCF2, if you want to catch myself and Omi specifically, we are covering an infilling tonight. We will be on PCF3, which is an hour prior to this one. So if you want a little bit of preamble to the PCF2 races, then you know where to find us. But at least from myself, is going to be goodbye for now, Omi. We will see the fields, or a very different fields, next week out, but any final words from you at all?
Well, first of all, thank you for joining us here on the opener for PCF2. Really exciting season coming up. Make sure you keep tuning in to PSGL and enjoy, of course, the PlayStation openers on Monday as well, coming your way.
Yep, so plenty to look forward to. Don't forget as well, E-Series is going to be around the corner as well. Plenty of action kicking off here at PSGL. But for now, that's enough from us. From both of us in the commentary box, you've been an amazing audience. And for now, good night. We will see you next week in F3. And you can look forward to TK and Alex joining us from round 2 onwards for you in PCF2. Take care, everyone. It's been amazing. And good night.